You sure you're just going to dinner? The light turned green. She didn't answer. Not right away. She just stared ahead like I hadn't spoken, her fingers tightening on the steering wheel, jaw twitching slightly, barely noticeable, but I caught it. I always catch the twitch now. Then she laughed. Short. Hollow. Don't start, okay? I looked at her. She didn't look back. She never does when she's lying. The GPS said the restaurant was 12 minutes away, but I already knew she wouldn't be eating there. She had changed the name in her calendar app. I'd seen it. The invite said, rehearsal dinner. We don't know anyone getting married. But I said nothing. Just sat there, passenger in her car, passenger in my own life. She parked 2 blocks from the fake dinner. Said she'd walk the rest. Valet's too slow. That was new. She always complained about walking in heels. She kissed me on the cheek like she always does when she wants me to feel guilty for questioning her. Then she got out. I stayed in the car. I watched her walk past the corner where the restaurant was and turn left. Wrong direction. And right then, something weird happened. I didn't get angry. I didn't cry. I just laughed. Because 5 minutes earlier, I had slipped something into her purse. A folded envelope. One line written in red ink. Fine, go ahead. But the moment you step out that door, our marriage is finished. Don't ever think about coming back. She hadn't read it yet, but she would. Soon. And when she did, everything would start unraveling. Because that night wasn't just about dinner. That night was a setup. And she had no idea what was waiting for her when she came back, if she dared to. I stayed in the car for exactly 7 minutes after she turned the corner. It wasn't suspense, it was calculation. She needed time to feel safe, to believe she'd pulled it off again. I knew her patterns now. Not because I was some kind of genius, but because heartbreak turns you into a detective whether you want to be one or not. While I waited, I stared at the dashboard like it could explain how we got here. There were still crumbs from her favorite granola bar in the cup holder. Her perfume still lingered faintly in the air. For a second, I almost reached for her jacket, still hanging on the back seat, out of habit. That's how sick this had made me, reaching for her like nothing was wrong. But I didn't. I pulled out my phone instead and opened the tracking app. The one I swore I'd never use. The one I'd installed last week after finding a receipt from a motel an hour away. Dated on the same weekend she was supposedly at her cousin's wellness retreat. Yeah, right. There she was. A blinking red dot on my screen, now sitting at 242 Ridgeway. Not the restaurant. Not even close. I started the engine and followed, keeping a few cars behind. I didn't want to be seen. Not yet. I parked across from the house. A house I didn't recognize. A house with lights on inside. A house that had a silver Audi in the driveway. A car I knew belonged to one man. A man she once told me was just a consultant she'd met through a friend. His name was Nathan. I'd seen his name pop up twice on our phone bill, once at 1:41 a.m. I waited another 15 minutes. Enough time for her to get comfortable. Enough time for the envelope in her purse to be discovered. And then, right on schedule, her name lit up my phone. Once. Twice. 6 times. I didn't answer. She texted next. What is this? Then, are you following me? And finally, you're insane. We need to talk now. That was the moment I knew. She hadn't gone there to end anything. She had gone there because she believed I would never do anything about it. She thought I would continue to sit silently, pretend I didn't see what was in front of me, and wait around like a beaten dog for scraps of her time and affection. Not this time. I stepped out of the car and started walking toward the house. Not to knock. Not to fight. I wasn't there for a scene. I just wanted to see. I walked past the Audi, past the hydrangeas in perfect bloom along the sidewalk, up to the bay window, just slightly cracked open. The curtains were parted, just enough to see the two of them, her on the couch, phone in hand, pacing now. Him sitting, arms crossed, looking irritated. She was showing him the letter. He laughed. He actually laughed. And then I watched her panic, because she realized she had just made a fatal mistake. She underestimated the man she married. What she didn't know was that this wasn't the end. Not even close. It was just the first domino. And the next one was going to hit hard. I didn't stay to listen to their argument. I didn't need to. I'd already heard enough lies to last a lifetime. I turned away from that window with a cold clarity I hadn't felt in months. Not rage, not heartbreak. Just the silent realization that I had nothing left to lose, which made me more dangerous than ever. By the time she came running out of the house, barefoot and yelling my name into the dark street, I was already in the car, already pulling away. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. I knew exactly what her face would look like. Not guilt, not regret, but fear. Not because she thought she'd hurt me, but because she was starting to understand that I was no longer the guy who would beg her to stay. I drove aimlessly for a while, letting the city blur past me, trying to remember who I was before I became someone else's afterthought. Every mile away from that house made it easier to breathe. But the problem with running is that eventually, you run out of road. I ended up at an old gas station on the edge of town, the kind where the lights flicker and the coffee tastes like engine oil. I sat there in the parking lot, staring at the plastic bag on the passenger seat, the one holding copies of every hotel receipt, every sketchy bank withdrawal, every phone log. I'd spent weeks collecting them. At first, I didn't even know why. Maybe I was hoping I was wrong. Maybe I just needed proof that the love I thought we had wasn't in my head. Now it was fuel. I opened the glove compartment and pulled out the prepaid phone I'd kept hidden. Only 2 numbers saved on it. One was my lawyer. The other was someone Marlene used to call a jealous psycho. Her sister. Yeah, turns out, her own sister warned me once, quietly, when no one else was around. I didn't believe her back then. Thought it was just petty family stuff. But she'd known. She'd seen it before I did. And now? Now she was going to help me finish this. I texted her one sentence. It's happening. I'm done. She replied within seconds. I've been waiting. Meanwhile, my regular phone buzzed nonstop. Missed calls, voicemails, texts from Marlene piling up like an avalanche of fake apologies and desperation. I didn't open a single one. I just stared at the screen until it finally stopped. Until even she knew that the silence meant I wasn't bluffing anymore. But here's the part one didn't expect. At 3:02 a.m., the call started coming from someone else. Unknown number. Same one. Over and over. I let it ring. 10 times. 15. Then curiosity won. I picked up. A woman's voice, shaky and low. Is this Elliot? I didn't answer. I just listened. Then she said the words that chilled me. I know what Marlene's been doing. You're not the only one. I gripped the phone tighter. Who is this? She hesitated, then whispered. She ruined my life too. And just like that, I realized this wasn't just an affair. It was something far worse. And I was about to uncover the part she never thought would surface. She didn't give me her name at first. Just silence. Then shallow breathing. I almost hung up. I thought maybe it was a prank or some messed up stunt Marlene put together to mess with my head even more. But then she said something that stopped me cold. She used to call you the fallback. Did you know that? I didn't answer. My throat tightened so hard I couldn't speak even if I wanted to. I only met her once. In person, the voice continued. She didn't know who I was. But I knew her. I knew everything. The line crackled. I waited, heart pounding. I didn't want to say a word and accidentally break the spell. She promised him she was leaving you months ago. She lied to both of you. And that's when it clicked. She wasn't the other woman. She was his woman. Nathan's. The man Marlene had been seeing behind my back. He had a partner too. A fiancé, apparently. And now, here she was, on the phone with me, talking like we were the only 2 sane people left in a world full of liars. She told him you were emotionally unstable, she added. Said you couldn't satisfy her intellectually. That he was her real soulmate. But she couldn't leave you until your finances were separate. She said she'd get rid of you soon. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because the absurdity of hearing your own wife plot your removal like a logistical step in a business plan. It's surreal. I sat there in that gas station parking lot, in the dark, with a stranger on the phone telling me how worthless my wife thought I was. And for some reason, I thanked her. She didn't ask for anything. She didn't even try to turn it into a team up. She just said, you deserve to know who you married. Then she hung up. I stared at the blank screen for what felt like an hour, trying to process everything. Every memory, every birthday card, every I love you. They all rewrote themselves in my mind with this new context. The truth wasn't just that she'd cheated. It was that she had planned my end. She wanted out, but she wanted me to pay for it. By morning, I had stopped crying. There was no energy left for that. Only focus. Only plans. I called in sick to work. Not because I was sick. Because I had a list. The lawyer. The bank. The landlord. The backup storage account she forgot existed. The one with copies of all our joint paperwork and financial records. I started shutting doors behind her before she even realized what was happening. I called her sister too. She didn't sound surprised. She just said, "Took you long enough." That afternoon, I changed the locks. At 5:42 p.m., Marlene texted, "We need to talk. Can I come home for a bit?" I didn't respond. I just sent one photo. Her suitcase, sitting outside the door, and beside it, a USB drive, labeled, "Everything." She called 5 times. I didn't answer. She came by 20 minutes later, banging on the door like a burglar. I stood behind it, listening to her cry, scream, beg, a performance, honestly. I wasn't moved, because I wasn't the same man she walked away from. And she knew it. But what she didn't know was what I had left out of the USB. Because one secret was too good to give away that easily. And I was saving it for the perfect moment. I watched her from behind the curtain as she stood in the rain. Not pouring, not dramatic movie-style rain. Just a steady, pathetic drizzle that soaked her hair and makeup until she looked like a melting version of the woman I once married. She clutched the suitcase like it had answers in it, like maybe it would open and this would all just be a dream. But she didn't touch the USB. She stared at it like it was radioactive. Good, let it burn. But what she didn't know, what she never would have guessed, was that the drive only held the harmless stuff. The receipts, the messages, the photos of her and Nathan entering that Airbnb by the lake last fall. All of that was damning enough, but not fatal. The real nuke was still in my pocket. I hadn't even meant to find it. It was pure accident. I had logged into our shared cloud account just to download some tax documents, thinking I'd print them before she got smart enough to wipe the whole thing. But then I found a folder that wasn't mine, tucked inside the storage under a random project name, Case Study, Q3 Metrics. And inside that folder were 5 videos. 5. Each one dated. Each one time-stamped. Each one filmed by her. Not just of Nathan, but of others. She wasn't just cheating. She was collecting, documenting. And in one of them, in the 3rd video, there was something that made my blood turn to ice. It wasn't Nathan in the frame. It was someone else. Someone I knew. My boss. The same man who had given me that raise 6 months ago. The same one who invited us to his kid's birthday party. The same one who shook my hand and told me how lucky I was to have a loyal wife. That video was time-stamped 2 days after that party. It wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was leverage. She'd been sleeping with people who had power over my life, over my job, over our finances, and she was filming it, keeping it, storing it in our shared cloud, which meant one of 2 things. Either she was reckless beyond comprehension, or she was planning to use it. Maybe not against me, maybe not yet, but against someone. And suddenly, all of this felt different. This wasn't just infidelity. This was blackmail, insurance, manipulation of the worst kind. I didn't include any of that on the USB. I didn't want her to know I'd seen it. Not yet. I needed her off balance. Scared, desperate to control the narrative. And that's exactly what she was as she stood out there in the drizzle, calling out my name, still pretending like any of this could be talked through. I didn't open the door. I waited until she left. And the moment her car was gone, I packed a bag, grabbed the hard drive with the 5 videos, and drove 3 towns over to the one person I knew I could trust. Someone who'd once been a target of hers too. Someone she dismissed as irrelevant. Her sister. And the second she saw me holding that drive, she said something that chilled me more than anything else. "You found it, didn't you?" I nodded. And she just said, "Then it's already started." I didn't understand what she meant. Not yet. But I was about to. Because Marlene's games weren't just about affairs or lies anymore. She was playing a different game. A dangerous one. And now I was in the middle of it, whether I wanted to be or not. I didn't sleep that night. Her sister and I sat in silence for most of it. We didn't say much, because honestly, what could you say when your lives were stitched into the same twisted lie, sewn by someone who had pretended to love you both in different ways? The truth had started unraveling, and once it began, it didn't stop. Her sister's name is Delia. She's younger than Marlene by 4 years, quieter, and a little bitter around the edges, but now I understood why. She'd cut ties with her family years ago, and I always assumed it was about some silly fight over money or inheritance. That's what Marlene told me. But like everything else, that was a lie too. Delia made coffee at 3 o'clock in the morning, black and angry, and that's when she finally spoke. She said, "You don't know the half of it, Elliot. You think you're the first person she's played?" I stayed quiet. She didn't wait for an answer. She used to date this guy back in high school. He crashed his car after they broke up. Everyone said it was an accident. I always thought it wasn't. I stared at her. She met my eyes and said, "He left her a voicemail before he died. She deleted it." She laughed when she did it. It was the first time I realized I might have married someone with no concept of guilt. No line. No limit. Then she told me something I never expected to hear. "She keeps everything," Delia whispered. "Photos, texts, secrets, all locked in one place. A physical one. When she lived with me for a bit, I found it once. She has a storage unit. Out by the edge of town." I looked up. "Still active?" Delia nodded. I didn't have the guts to go back. That was all I needed to hear. By noon the next day, we were there. A gray, miserable-looking facility with rusted gates and security cameras that didn't look like they worked. The unit was registered under her maiden name. I still had access to our shared email account, the one she forgot she synced to her billing records. She used the same passcode she always used for everything, her father's birthday, the man she claimed to hate. When the door rolled up, the smell hit me first. Dry paper, dust, perfume. But then I saw the boxes. Stacks of them. Labeled in black marker, hold, records, travel, contacts. And then, one word that made my stomach turn. Leverage. We opened that one first. Inside, photos. So many photos. Some of her with Nathan. Others with my boss. A few with men I didn't recognize, but some wearing uniforms. Police. Fire department. One was a local politician. Each photo had a date and a number written on the back. Some had sticky notes with names. Some had dollar amounts. She wasn't just cheating. She was collecting people. Blackmail wasn't her side game. It was her hobby. Delia backed away, hand over her mouth. I just stood there, numb. A cold clarity crept into my spine. My wife, had been building a portfolio of secrets, like some twisted investment plan, preparing for a day when she might need to trade them in. I found a small lockbox buried in the bottom of one of the bins. When I opened it, I saw something that nearly made me drop it. A fake passport, with her face, different hair color, different name, and inside the flap, tucked in behind the ID, was a plane ticket. One way, to another country, dated just 3 weeks from now. She wasn't just planning to leave me. She was planning to vanish and take everything, with her. That's when I stopped seeing this as a marriage crisis. This was a full-scale escape plan, and I was about to blow it all up before she ever got to board that plane. I gave her 3 days, not because she deserved it, but because I needed time to prepare, to cover myself, to figure out what kind of person I was becoming and whether I was ready to cross the line between surviving and destroying. I copied everything, every file, every photo, every note from the storage unit. Delia helped. She didn't even hesitate. We sat on her living room floor surrounded by piles of evidence, treating it like a crime scene, because that's exactly what it was. The life I had lived with Marlene was a carefully staged lie, and now we were reverse engineering it, piece by piece. I emailed an anonymous tip to a journalist I knew from high school, someone I hadn't spoken to in years, but who made a career out of digging into corruption. I used a burner address, sent just enough to hook him, but not enough to burn it all at once. I told him there was more, and that I'd give it to him, but only if he met me in person. He agreed. That meeting was scheduled for the next afternoon, but I never made it there, because Marlene found out. I don't know how. Maybe someone saw us at the storage unit. Maybe one of her little pawns tipped her off. Maybe she was smarter than I ever gave her credit for. But at 2:13 p.m., 47 minutes before I was supposed to meet the reporter, I got a notification. Fraud alert. My bank accounts were being drained. Not emptied, closed. She had somehow accessed the joint assets I hadn't frozen yet. She wiped our savings, cleared out what was left of the emergency fund, liquidated the investment account we opened 2 years ago for a future baby that never came. It was gone. Every dollar. Then came the texts. From coworkers. From friends. One from my mother. What is she talking about? What photos? Marlene had sent them screenshots. Fabricated messages. Edited pictures. Just enough to make me look like I'd been stalking her, manipulating her, maybe even threatening her. She played the victim fast. And she played it well. And then came the call. Blocked number. I answered. Her voice was ice. You want to burn everything down, Elliot? Fine. But don't be surprised when you get caught in the fire. I could barely speak. I just said one thing. I have everything. Her pause was long. Calculating. Then you better watch what you do with it. Click. I sat there frozen, phone in hand, watching my entire life cave in, not because I didn't see it coming, but because I had, and I still let her get that close. But I wasn't done. If she wanted war, she was going to get it. That night, I met the journalist anyway. No name, no location he could trace back to me. I handed him a flash drive and said, "Wait 3 days. If you don't hear from me, release it." He looked nervous. "What's on here?" I smiled, hollow and tired. Everything she thought she deleted. Then I left, because I still had one move left. One thing she never planned for. And once I played it, she'd have nowhere left to run. 3 days passed. I didn't answer her calls. I didn't respond to the lawyer's email she tried to scare me with. I didn't speak to the friends she weaponized against me, or the co-workers who now looked at me like I was the monster. I went quiet, fully, completely. I let her believe I had broken, that she had won, that I was crawling back into the dark corner she wanted me in. And then, the article dropped. Not a blog post, not a vague, anonymous leak. A headline: local woman accused of multi-year blackmail scheme. Secret recordings, political ties, hidden identity. It spread like wildfire. The journalist didn't hold back. He did his homework. He verified every image, every bank trail, every fake name, every timeline. He dug deeper than I expected, into her past, into the consultants and old friends she'd claimed were harmless. And best of all, he did it without exposing me. Marlene's name trended on local news stations within hours. By sunset, her employer had put her on unpaid leave, pending investigation. The mayor's office issued a statement claiming zero knowledge of her activities. The fire chief quietly retired the next morning. Nathan, his wife, filed for divorce immediately. I heard she sent him a copy of the article with the words, "So this is who you risked everything for." But Marlene, she panicked. She tried to shift the story again, tried to paint herself as a victim of a vengeful ex with digital manipulation tools. But no one bought it this time, because I didn't speak. I didn't fight back online. I let the evidence speak for itself. She came to my door 3 days later. No makeup, hair tied up, pale, shaking. She didn't knock. She just sat on the front step like a kid waiting to be picked up. I watched from inside. I didn't open it. Not out of cruelty. Out of peace. Because for the first time in months, I had peace. I had already started over. Quietly, I moved into a small rental an hour away. Got transferred to a new division where no one knew anything about my past. Delia and I stayed in touch. Not romantically, but as allies, survivors of the same storm. I started seeing a therapist. Started sleeping again. Started laughing again, a little. And then, one day, someone laughed back. Her name is Joelle. She works at a local bookstore where I now spend way too much time pretending to read and buying books I'll never finish. She doesn't ask about my past. She just listens when I need her to. She smiles with her whole face. She makes coffee like it's an art form. And when I finally told her everything, not all at once, but slowly, painfully, truthfully, she didn't flinch. She just took my hand and said, "Sounds like you finally escaped a prison you didn't know you were in." She was right. Marlene built walls, but I walked out of them, and I never looked back. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply close the door she once slammed behind her and never, ever reopen it.